Apple may be forced to ditch the Lightning connector. So the word on the street is the EU will be voting on regulations that will require all mobile devices to use a single universal charging method. Can I jump in and say, I hate this?
Honestly, I'm really surprised. So please continue.
Okay, why don't we get through the rest of this?
Okay.
No, you know what? No, we're not going to. I hate this.
Is it a stifling innovation angle?
Not necessarily, because I think stifling innovation has become like a buzzword that just means allowing, that means forcing us to not act in a non-competitive manner. Like, stifling innovation has just become, its meaning has become perverted, I think, just because of the way that it's been used so frequently.
Sure.
So the reason I hate this is that I think it's going to stifle innovation. So, okay, not.
Yeah.
Okay, shut up. But not in that way, because the problem with standards. Okay, so we're lucky right now. USB-C is pretty great.
So it's more the future.
Yes.
Yeah.
But where are we going from here?
Yeah.
What happens when it's time for someone to create something different?
Are you not allowed?
Yeah, because this whole thing went down ages ago. The EU tried to go after Apple about the 40-pin connector way back in the day, if I recall correctly. It might have been the 40-pin, might have been Lightning, don't remember the time frame. But ultimately, what we got after the Apple 40-pin connector was Lightning, which was so much better than anything that was available on the PC side of things, or on the like open standard side of things, that it was almost worth switching to an iPhone for. Remember, this is pre-wireless charging, and the Lightning connector was great. So I'm looking at it going, okay, at this moment in time, USB Type-C looks pretty great. Seems like it's working out pretty good so far. We haven't so far identified any long-term durability or reliability problems.
Yeah.
It holds up physically, it holds up electrically for the most part. Seems great. But we don't have to go that far in the past to find a time when allowing someone to use a different connector was a clear and obvious benefit for their customers, and not to the detriment of the rest of the market. Because Apple does charge to create works with Apple accessories, but the flip side of that is that nothing prevents you from buying an unauthorized one off of eBay.
When we go back to like flip and slider phones, it was horrible.
That was a gong show.
It was terrible.
It was terrible.
I don't think we're there now, because right now we have basically micro USB, USB-C, and Lightning.
Yes.
That's not that bad. And you have like a little bit older Android phones, current Android phones, and iPhones. That's not that bad.
The other concern that I have is that these regulations, in many cases, technology regulations, are created by people who do not fully understand what they're regulating.
They're often very important. I want to throw that out there too.
Yes.
There are lots of very important technology regulations that keep things moving, and we're very thankful for. But yes, they're also often made by people that have no idea what
even by engineers. USB Type-C is not particularly well understood in a lot of cases, because you guys are a tech savvy audience, right? You see 4 USB-C connections on the back of the Apple Pro Display XDR. Tell me what you think they are. One of them has a little bolt next to it. Tell me what they all are.
A Thunderbolt.
Okay.
And 3 USB-C 3.1s.
Wrong.
Is one of them's power?
No.
And the other ones don't allow that? No. I have no idea.
Okay, see, that's the problem. There are so many different implementations of USB-C, the physical connector electrically, that the potential for them to say, okay, well, everything has to use USB Type-C because that way everything can be charged from, one thing.
What are they?
So basically one of them is Thunderbolt, and that goes to the Mac Pro, or to your MacBook Pro.
Sure.
And the other 3 are actually USB Type 2 electrically.
Okay.
And the reason is that Apple is using up all of the available bandwidth in that connection to put 2 DisplayPort streams through it, because that's how they're doing 6K 60 hertz off of a single cable. Now, they could have just done 2 cables, which would have increased the backwards compatibility of the display, but that
But
wouldn't have been as elegant.
They would never want to. Yeah.
Yeah, and that wouldn't have had, and it would have had high-speed connectivity. Whatever.
Okay, all right.
Anyway, so there's so many different implementations that even if the intent was to say, USB Type-C is the past, present, and future. We want everything to use this so that you've got universal interoperability, which gives consumers choice. Now they can choose their vendor for their charging devices. Even if that was the intent, that might not actually be the result. Because we've already seen with the Nintendo Switch getting bricked by power banks and non-authorized third-party adapters, that there are so many different implementations, some of them standard and some of them non-standard, that there's no way that you would be able, that you wouldn't have the understanding to regulate that properly. And many devices just have different needs, so that even though USB Type-C is a fantastic standard and has so much flexibility in its implementation that allows it to be used for so many different things, everything from charging a laptop to outputting power off of your phone and charging something else. It's so cool. But that flexibility means that it's not one thing. So trying to standardize on this one thing could actually hurt what is so great about this one thing.
And as far as my understanding goes,
that's my piece.
micro USB is wildly cheaper as well. And we don't necessarily
Yes.
want to drive up the cost of a lot of low-cost devices.
like an IoT connected relay that you use for your
Sure.
garage door. I have one that uses micro USB. It significantly increases the complexity of implementing the charging port if they have to use USB Type-C.
And especially if it's a plug-in once, leave always plugged in style device, you don't need really the features that USB-C give you if you can get everything else done by a micro USB connection.
With that said, we did find that USB Type-C was quite a bit more durable, and I have had a fair number of microbees just from being left in
just like
die.
kind of die.
But
yeah.
that I think has as much to do with it being a poor quality connector
Yeah.
as it has to do with the actual standard itself.
Yeah.
So there's a different conversation to have there. I mean, that's another thing too, is like unless you're regulating the quality of them as well.
And speaking of quality, this might be unpopular. I personally like Lightnings more than USB-C.
Oh, I love the Lightning connector.
Yeah.
I mean, Apple's like cable sleeving has had issues at times in the past, but the actual Lightning
The actual
connector itself,
The
So
feel
good.
of the plug-in, unplug experience is
Yep.
fantastic.
it does tend to get. The Verge is reporting this is about the wall charger, not the actual plug on the phone. Either way, that has its own separate. Everything I said is already still applicable to that then. So all these different implementations of powering devices. If you standardize the wall charger, how would you keep tweaking with like your battery charge rates, like your current delivery rates and all that kind of stuff? Like there are advantages to having the charger
sure.
talk to the device. No, I still don't support it. So there you go. All right, what else? So okay, let's go through our actual talking points for this thing. Uh-oh, wife messaging. Okay, cool, that's perfect. So something, require that all mobile devices use a single universal charging method. Apple's response. Oh, this is great. Regulations that would drive conformity across the type of connector built into all smartphones freeze innovation rather than encourage it. Such proposals are bad for the environment and unnecessarily disruptive for customers. I don't necessarily agree that they are bad for the environment, because continuing to use your existing cables is definitely more better for the environment.
I could
Reduce is the best R.
could
is basically
only-
what I'm trying to say.
I could only understand the environment thing if it was used poetically, and they mean like the, environment of innovators.
Oh, like the
of
metaphorical environment.
Yeah,
of,
I'm sure they
yeah.
don't mean that, but that's the only
No.
way that I can.
Every
make it make
time
sense.
millions of people replace their cables and throw away their old cables, it is super bad for the environment.
Yeah. That's a weird try to kind of hill to fall on.
Yeah, they go on. We want to ensure that any new legislation will not result in the shipment of any unnecessary cables or external adapters with every device, or render obsolete the devices and accessories used by many millions of Europeans and hundreds of millions of Apple customers. Okay, so that's great. I see where their argument is coming from. If we had to include an adapter to the thing that we're shipping everywhere else in the world because we're going to do that. So basically, they're just being petulant children that would rather do something that's bad for the environment than
So they're
Just
saying
standardize.
we will be bad for the environment if you
If
do
you
this.
make us do this.
Okay, that makes more sense.
So it's a threat,
Oh my god.
not a warning.
Brutal.
Given the market's steady switch to USB Type-C, it's likely that this is the standard that will be adopted if it's passed. And iPhones have been rumored to ditch Lightning for Type-C for years. But also, recent rumors now point to a completely portless design with wireless charging and wireless data transfer only anyway. And honestly, we're not far away from that actually kind of making sense.
Yeah.
Because
Once you took the headphone jack out, like,
Wi-Fi has gotten pretty fast.
Yeah.
And wireless charging has
how
gotten
many people still
pretty
transfer files through a cable to their phone?
good. On an iPhone, I don't bother, but on an Android device, I kind of do a lot.
Interesting.
So
Why?
there you go. Just because it's a lot faster. Well, remember too,
What are you transferring onto your phone?
like not onto my phone, off my phone.
Okay.
So as like a video maker, I'm often doing screen cap on my phone that I need to
Yeah. Okay.
put onto an editor.
I was thinking the other way around. So yeah.
No, I
You
don't.
could have that auto sync.
Yeah, no, I don't put anything on my phone.